Hi guys, Tom Bill McGrath here. I want to talk to you today about the relationship between Pekiti-Tirsia empty hand versus knife and knife-to-knife training. So first, let's start with some nomenclature. I'm just going to demonstrate the low line and then high line straight shots real quick, so you have some basic nomenclature. So if he comes in on a low line shot, our primary parry, what we want to do is from the outside line to get us access to his back. However, if that's wiped away and comes with a double shot, if I have time, I'll try to do a smother low line here and a high hit here, getting off to the side. However, if he double feeds me quickly, my primary is here, then my secondary is here. That is used not so much to push him out of the way, because he can come back here, and he might just power through this, but really to set up a fence that I use to get around him and try to get to the ear. So let's show from that side. So if he double feeds me, if I have the primary that comes out, that secondary is just enough to get me offline. And I don't want to stay here in his power zone. I want to get offline and hit the head. However, if he comes in and it's very quick, that gets, I might have to use what's called tertiary Pekiti-Tirsia, which is a slap with the palm usually. Now on the high shot, we also like a hard shot. Our outside angle here, let me get it on the side, you can see here. If he comes in, our primary is to get the outside line. This way we have our chest muscles fighting against his side head of his deltoid. We're not going into, pectoral muscle versus pectoral muscle fight. The stronger guy's going to win on that. So our primary is going to be on the outside on that. And we have secondary and tertiary parries on the high straight shot as well. You have them all the angles of attack. So that's to give you some basic nomenclature. Okay, here's some knife to knife in Pekiti-Tirsia, and you can see where the empty hand versus knife came from and why some of the theories relate to each other. You notice I'm standing weapon side back. We generally, and Daniel is as well, we both have the knife and hammer grip. Generally speaking, in Pekiti-Tirsia, when you're dealing with a small knife, like a 4-inch pocket knife or a small butterfly knife, whatever, we generally take to the idea that the left hand is going to have to help more because the knife is small. So we'll try to equalize the distance, the reach, by having the empty hand forward. If I had a different grip than him, for instance, if he has a larger knife that works well in hammer grip, but I have a small pocket knife that works better in ice pick grip, then I will tend to accentuate my advantage. I'm going to try to have that weapon out farther and have the weapon side lead, because ice pick grip tends to grapple better than hammer grip when they come to a contact point. And Dan would do the same thing. He would have his weapon side forward, because the advantage of hammer grip is it has a longer reach than ice pick grip. So when you see a stand like that, there's a reason for this. So for instance, we'll go back to hammer grip. When he comes out a low line shot, I come in and I'm going to make a hit or slice of the eyes, but it does not delay my primary parry. And show from the other side. So if he comes in here, that motion here, that sweep downward from guard to go to the primary parry, notice I do a tertiary parry, kind of like targeting radar to know where his arm is, because if I can touch this target I have here, I have a better chance of getting the primary parry. And it's very much like a boxer's jab cross. If a boxer tags the jaw with the jab, he's much better likelihood of hitting on the cross than on an overhand right that there's no tactile range estimation in. So same idea here. I want to go and I'm doing a quick cut to the head. This is not going to, with a 4-inch knife, obviously I'm not going to make a slice, cut through his head and drop him instantly. The idea of this is some little distracting piece that does not delay your primary parry long. That's the reason I'm doing that. So that's why you'll see an empty hand versus knife, just small hit to the head, just a quick slap, just to get him off his game plan slightly, and kind of acting almost like a stun grenade, let's say, to get offline, and then I can get onto that side. You notice, let me show something here. The reason I like to catch that tricep angle and get in deep, I don't want to stand inside the arc of his blade. I want to get inside that because I can still do my hits on the arm here, and it's hard for him to hit me. And if he does pull back, if he's stronger than me, it's basically pushing me around him. So you're not, Pekiti-Tirsia has a tendency to do grappling techniques after you get a hit. And the grappling techniques are basically the idea of, here's a knife, I don't. I want to do things that are structured for a worst case scenario, let's say. So it's really tough to grapple directly with the knife arm. You know, he has another hand that can hit, that can gouge your eye, does not require a lot of strength to throw you off your game plan. So it's good to get a disabling hit first. So now let's go up to the high shot, the grab instead, which is very much like a boxer's jab and cross, except he's trying to grab rather than just jab. But let me show you something quick. If he comes in with that jab, if I hit on top, because I'm inside the arc of his arm, as he pulls back, I should be able to get inside that and get a hit. Even more so, obviously, if I have a knife in my hand, which has a little more reach. And again, you're not trying to, let's say, stab him in the throat with this. I'm just doing a bump into his eyes because that knife is still coming in. If I stab into his body, I stab into his neck, hit the carotid artery, yes, he will die, but he's not going to drop immediately, and that knife is still coming in, and I'm kind of jammed up here. So a lot of this is structured with the idea of, you know, the guy's going to survive minor hits with a 4-inch knife. Even things that can kill him won't drop him right away. There are very few parts of the human body where you can hit with a 4-inch knife and it will instantly incapacitate someone. And from the front, they're kind of hard to hit if you're talking about penetration, sufficient penetration to stop him instantly. So what you really want to do is just throw him mentally off balance just a little bit, drop his game plan long enough for you to get a hold of that knife. And then you could do your disabling from there. So again, on the grab and stab, primary parry, I'm going to treat this jab or grab the same way, come with the knife, the same way I did with the cross, right? So I come in, hit. Now from here, I get the head, but tough guy, it didn't really do enough to him. So that knife comes in, that's my secondary parry to get inside and start working the parts that could disable. So now look at this empty hand versus knife. He comes in, I come into here, right, with the grab and stab, bang, I hit this, I'm hitting the head, smacking the eyes, and I can also push the head, which helps limit the range of his thrust. From there, the secondary parry, get inside the arc, hit his head, who turns and drop on the ground and breaks and whatnot. But you're still keeping that principle of, he's got a better weapon than me. And anything I do may not drop him instantly. Yeah, you're Mike Tyson, he comes with a knife, hammer this and boom, and a big cross right here will, you get by Mike Tyson, yeah, pro boxer, can do punches a little more effectively than most people. But in Pekiti-Tirsia, we're thinking about how can we maintain utilization of our weapon hands. Because the idea of Pekiti-Tirsia empty hand versus knife is not to do all your technique, you know, totally empty hand. It's to buy you time to get something in your hand. If you do this with an empty hand versus knife, you can do this with a pen in your hand. You can do this with your cell phone in your hand, a book in your hand. If I even do this and I go into his eyes, you know, if I have my gloves in my hand, let's say, it's still more of a distraction than, you know, doing empty-handed. Something in your hand does two things for you. A knife fight. You're trying to make this a weapon versus weapon fight as soon as possible because something in your hand gives you mental focus. It gives you a plan to focus on, and that tends to reduce stress. It tends to give you a focal point in what your attack strategy is. So if he comes in and I have empty hand versus knife, I'm thinking, okay, this hand does this, that hand does that. If I have something in this hand now, let's say the first attack I hit, I push, and I get a pen in my hand, let's say. Now I can do the same technique and pop that in his eye and push them over, and I know, hey, you know what? Now I have a little more time to do, let's say, a break on this side or whatever I want to do. So a lot of it is psychological as well as physiological of why you want to, one, get something in your hand quickly. Two, when you see us do empty hand versus knife technique, that's similar to the knife versus knife technique, you're doing the same gross motions across various weapon platforms. That's a lot easier for the brain to comprehend, to repeat under stress of a fight. So if my knife to knife technique on the grab and stab is here, and then capture that, the dagger when it comes in, then my empty hand technique, grab and stab, capture the dagger when it comes in. So the same gross motions, they can repeat themselves across weapon platforms. It's a lot easier for the brain to repeat that under the stress of a fight. And that's really the heart of what Pekiti-Tirsia empty hand versus knife is about.